values. Okay? That's the kind of thing we're talking about here. You're deciding to what you're going to commit. What you're going to commit to. Okay? All right. Developing integrity. Rigid thinking gives way to a more humanized value system. Our core values are affirmed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, our values and actions become congruent and authentic, self-interest balanced with social responsibility. All right? All right. So, at sort of the top of the chain, right, the top of the vector pyramid, right, is when we begin to, what I was just describing earlier with values clarification and so on, the Chickering way to say that is our values and our actions become congruent and authentic. Okay? So I'm going to act the same way every time. The same way. Look, I'm a dean. I'm a department chair for 7 years. And the faculty, whether they like me or not, grew to respect me, they say, right? They say, not just me saying, because why? Because I said the same thing every time. And I said the same thing to every person. I was consistent. I acted on my beliefs and my values. And I said the same thing to this person that I said to this person. They weren't going to get a different story. And if they come back in 2 months, I'm still going to be saying the same thing. Why? Because I'm congruent with my values. Because I'm authentic. And I don't have to, it's the classic, the silly way to say this is what? Don't start lying. Why? Because eventually you can't keep up. You forget. You forget what you told that other person and this person, and so you can't be consistent long enough, right? But if you always say the same thing and you're consistent, then you don't have to worry about that, all right? Okay, self-interest balanced with social responsibility. Now we're going to see that those paragraphs right there wind up describing sort of the top end of almost every developmental theory that there is. Okay? All right. So with Chickering, we have key institutional influences. The mission of the institution is a key institutional influence, right? If our goal is to develop good, young, Christian, Catholic people, as it is in some Catholic institutions, that's completely appropriate, and that is something that we're going to shoot for, and we're going to program around it. Okay? So whatever our mission is, and look, no one hates strategic planning more than I do. Okay? But when we do strategic planning, if you do it right, and I know you will because I know Donnie, right? Then when you look at your mission and when you set up your goals and when you set up your outcomes, then what? You are going to be held to account for those and you are going to use them in your work. That's what this means. We need to be all on the same page. We need to understand what we're trying to accomplish as an institution. Okay? And if we do, then we'll make some impact on the students. And if we don't, then we won't. Okay? Institutional size, smaller is better. Smaller is better. Okay? Smaller is better. Because why? You're going to have 5 plays here on campus. I'm making up a number. 4 or 5 plays here on campus, right? So how many chances are there to be the star of a play? 4 or 5, right? How many drama majors do you have? Or whoever goes out and does the right? You probably have 100 here, right? 75, 150, something like that. How many do we have at Texas State? 1,500. Still only have 5 plays. Whoops. Do the math. Smaller is better. Okay? Smaller is better. Student-faculty relationships matter. We know that engagement with faculty in out-of-class settings matters in student development. Curriculum matters. Teaching matters. Friendships and student communities matter. Student affairs matters. Student development programs and services matter. 3 admonitions from Chickering. Integration of work and learning, especially nowadays when so many of our students work. Recognition and respect for differences. We know this. It's in our DNA in student affairs. The cyclical nature of learning and development. Look, learning and development is not necessarily linear. It may spiral. It may crash in on itself sometimes, right? It may go in fits and starts. We may even revert a little bit, regress sometimes, right? But it's cyclical. We work on things and for a little while, consolidate, and then come back and work on it again. Okay? Those are the psychosocial theories. That's the only one we're going to look at, really. I'm giving you representative theories, right? Okay, so cognitive structural theories. We're going to, this is how ruthless 2 hours is, right? I'm going to leave out Perry. I can't even believe this. I can't do it with a straight face. But I'm going to leave him out because he's too much like Kohlberg, and I can only use one old white guy. Okay, so Kohlberg's theory, one old white guy who based his entire theory on 36 white Harvard male students, right? So we only need one of those this time, okay? Now, it's a good theory. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, right? All right, so he's a hard stage theory. And a hard stage theorist means what? Sequence, structure, and hierarchy. He's going to say, here are the stages. They are always these stages. They are always in this sequence, and they always build from here to here. Okay, that's what he's going to say. Now, lots of other theorists are going to say, well, not so much. You can go to this one, you can jump to this one. Sometimes you have to circle back and catch up with this one, and it's not the same. It's not for everybody, and sometimes you can skip one, and blah, blah, blah. No. Kohlberg says, no. You will develop this way, and you will like it. So, the requirements for developing to begin with, right? This guy really is a bit of an elitist, and that's one of the negative things, right? The requirements for developing in the first place are that you have to be smart enough to be able to do it. You have to have enough cognitive structure in your head already to be able to do something. And the second thing that you have to have, and this is cooler, this is much better, and it's kind of fun. You have to have a skill called social perspective taking. Perspective taking. And the first time you see those words put together, you realize, again, this is like a German word. It means a lot of stuff, okay? So social perspective taking means what? That I am able to see things from someone else's point of view, okay? That I'm able to see my impact on someone else and their impact on me and fold that into the equation, right? And I'm able to take myself out and put myself in the audience and say, why is this man yelling at me? So, two more requirements are exposure to higher stage thinking, okay? In order for you to develop, you have to be exposed to thinking that is a higher level of thinking than your own. In order for you to be taught, right, the person teaching you has to know more about the subject than you do. Okay? Not always true, but usually true. But in development, we need to expose them to higher level thinking. So if they're going to shout racist slurs at one another, the students, right? Are we going to stop them or help them learn better than that by saying, stop shouting slurs at each other? Is that going to do it? That's not going to do it. What's going to do it? What's going to do it? You know how to do this. We all know how to do this. Having conversations. What else? In actions. Our own actions. Interaction. What else? Okay, and how do we teach them that? Programming. We set up our environments in certain kinds of ways, right? We have certain kinds of labels that we use in our university, in our organizations, right? We have, oh my God, people that look like them on our staffs. Okay, look like everyone. right? We represent things. We have these values. We say these are our values, and we act on them, right? We give them what? Examples of ways to be other than the way that they are. Okay? We plus one them. We take them the next stage up. Okay? We're going to see in just a moment that Kohlberg has these 6 stages, right? The way you move from stage 1 to stage 2 is you have to be exposed to thinking that is stage 2 thinking. Okay? If you're not exposed to that, then you don't know that there's an option. You don't know that there's an alternative to stage 1. Okay? You can't, however, expose them to stage 4 thinking when they're in stage 1, because why? They can't get there. They can't get there. They don't even understand what you're talking about. If I try to teach a 5th grader calculus, right, he doesn't or she doesn't understand what I'm even talking about, right? In order to be able to study calculus, you've got to have had algebra 2, trigonometry, and something that we used to call analysis. I don't even know what they call it anymore. They probably call it pre-calc. Okay? All right, so, all right, let's go. Plus one theory, and it also requires disequilibrium, as we talked about. You've got to be understanding that what you're doing isn't working. What you're doing is not working. It's not making it for me. Okay? That's a very, very key point. Plus one reasoning and disequilibrium. All right? Oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. Okay. I don't use it. I'm a Mac guy, right? I mean, we don't, so. Okay. The stages are divided into 3 levels: pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional, or principled. We don't need to know that. Stages are heteronomous morality, obeying rules. The first stage of development is obeying rules to avoid punishment, right? Okay, I will not run in the house. I understand, right? Says my 4-year-old. Why? My 4-year-old grandson. Why? Because every time I run in the house, I get in trouble. So I'm going to sort of fast walk through the house and look at you and challenge you a little bit, just to say, well, what do you think? Is this running or not? Because if you think so, you know. Bapa. And he was living with us for about 4 or 5 months until about 3 weeks ago. So, curly, thick blonde hair, piercing blue eyes. Not easy to stay mad at him. Stage 2, individualistic, instrumental morality. I follow the rules if it's in my own interest. I'll make a deal with you. Okay? That's the next stage up. Interpersonally normative morality, meeting the expectations of those that are close to me. Okay? Now look, listen to what we're saying. Again, there's a whole thing for each of these stages, right? But listen to what we said. We're going from somebody who follows the rules because if I don't, I'll get punished, right? Now, a little higher order thinking, right, is that I'll make a deal with you. I'll follow this rule if you'll follow that rule, right? And a little higher than that is what? I'm going to try to be a good boy, a good girl. I want to be thought of well by my parents, by my faculty members, by my activities directors, and so on, right? I'm still working against an externally imposed standard, but I'm making some progress. You with me? You can see that we're moving up the chain, right? So the next level is then social system morality. A consistent set of rules apply to all people, and that works to our benefit. I'm going to drive back to San Marcos, to South Austin in a little while, right? And I'm going to stay, the interstate doesn't work quite as well. I used to travel on a road called Highway 21, right? This little narrow thing, right? And I took my 6,000-pound pickup truck, and I hurtled it down that road at 65, 70 miles an hour, right? And as long as I stay on this side, I'm going to be okay, right? And big trucks are coming at me the other way, right? And everybody's going to be okay as long as we all understand the rules. as long as we all act consistently, right? As long as we respond to this social contract, the contract theory of government, right? I will give up certain kinds of freedoms like driving faster or driving in both lanes in order that we can all coexist together. Okay? All right, and that's what this is. All right. Now, the fifth one is this is in post-conventional, it'll be in principled behavior, human rights and social welfare morality. The systems should promote fundamental human rights and values. Fundamental human rights and values. I'm no longer worried about the social system. I don't care what the laws are, the rules are. I'm going to govern myself according to, not that I don't care about them, but I'm going to govern myself according to a fundamental set of human rights and principles. Okay? And then the sixth one is just to finish the theory logically, right? It's morality of universalizable, reversible, and prescriptive general ethical principles that apply equally to all in all cases. I have it says anyone there, question mark. The fact is that in kind of an understated phrase, it says Kohlberg was unable to empirically establish this stage. That means what? There isn't anybody like that. Okay, maybe Gandhi, right? Maybe Martin Luther King, somebody like that. Okay, there isn't anyone like that. Okay, so that's Kohlberg. So Gilligan, Kohlberg's student, said, excuse me, yes ma'am, he said, you in the back of the room. He says, you have never talked to any women, and yet you put women in a category that makes them seem like deviants compared to this theory. And you've never studied them at all. All you did was study white guys from Harvard. And he said, what's your point? He didn't understand the point, okay? Well, it's not quite the way the interaction went. But so Gilligan said, look, here's the deal. I think that he's right about stage theory. I think that he's right about hard stage theory. I think he has a lot of stuff going on there. But he's wrong about women, right? Turns out that in the end, she said it's not wrong just about women, but he's wrong about some kinds of people, and he's wrong. There's two kinds of ethic that you can use when you're developing. There's a justice ethic, social justice ethic, which is what Kohlberg was using, and then there's the ethics of caring and connection, which is what Gilligan wants to use. And so she wrote a book called, in a different voice, did a different study. All right. So level 1 for her is orientation to individual survival. No difference between necessity and desire. There is no difference between necessity and desire. Right? If we want something, then the same thing as needing something for us. Okay. The first transition is from selfishness to responsibility, to responsibility, to connection and to caring. So now I begin to bring someone else into the picture. Level 2, goodness as self-sacrifice, right? Or otherwise known as the Midwest woman version. My wife and I, we teased about it all the time. She's a Dutch person, Dutch in America, American Dutch person, right? Who grew up in small town Illinois, okay? And the phrase is, no pie for me, thanks. No. Oh, no, no, you go ahead. No. Let everybody else have it first. Let everyone, right? Why? Because this is the role I'm expected to play. The role I'm expected to play. I want to be a good girl. I want to be a good boy. Okay? And that's my whole motivation. Okay? Second transition is from goodness to truth. Okay? And truth suggests that an examination of my needs is the truth and not selfishness. Care for me counts too. I don't have to just think about other people. I also get to think about myself. Right? Okay? And we make that transition to get to level 3. And level 3 is the morality of nonviolence, the mandate to avoid hurt for myself and for other people. I have the freedom, because I trust myself, to select from competing choices of behavior and to take into account my own needs and desires as well as other people's. Okay? And I trust myself to do that. Right? That's Gilligan. Now, students are doing these things. All right, other theories in this family are Baxter-Magolda, but we're going to look at another later piece of her work, and King and Kishner, moral reasoning model, which is a really good one. And the reason that you want to think about that one is because they have an instrument called the reflective justice inventory or something like that. So you can do some assessment with that. And it's a good one. Okay? Now, all of these theories largely concur that development means moving from what? From an external locus of control, which means what? Other people tell me what to do. I behave based on what I'm told to do. Okay, some kind of a standard is there, and I'm responding to that standard, and I had nothing to do with developing the standard. It's outside of me, it's external to me. What we want to do is we want to move from an external locus of control to an internal locus of control. To where what? I am in charge of my own choices, and I understand that I have responsibility for the consequences, and I'm okay with that. Okay? So, lower order development is just tell me what to do. Higher order development is what? I know what to do. Right? Let me know the circumstances, and then I will make my own choice. Right? And that's what we're trying to do in moving students from freshmen to sophomores to juniors to seniors. Right? What do 18-year-olds say in class? What do they consistently say when they come in and complain to you about their faculty? Why won't he just tell me the answer? She knows the answer. Why does she not answer my question? Right? What is that? It's called dualism. It's called dualism. The student is dualistic, and the student thinks that there is a correct answer. There is a correct answer for every question, and that the person in authority knows it. The transition happens, and the disquieting things, the disequilibrium happens what? When either two different authorities disagree about what the correct answer is, right? Or the student begins to think, well, I'm not sure that's the total, complete, correct answer, right? Or worse, in their mind, I'm not sure you know. I'm not sure, oh my God, maybe there isn't a correct answer? What? How is that even possible? So now what? Now I have to learn a new way. I got to do something different with that. I can't stay in this 1-2 black and white thing if what? If that's not all there is. Okay? How am I doing? Surprisingly well. Okay, fundamental developmental theory. All right, integrative theories. Theories in this family include ecology models, and they're incredibly complex and fascinating and wonderful. I wish I had time to do that. That's one of my favorite classes. There's the micro system, and there's the macro system, and there's the meso system, and you can draw circles and Venn diagrams and all that. Completely unrealistic and a bunch of crap, but it's fun. But it's way fun. It's way fun, especially for a math major. So, but this one is a good one. This is Keegan's theory, and lots of people like to use Keegan. All right. First of all, and order zero, and this is one of my favorites because I got a wonderful example of it. An infant believes that everything is an extension of itself, right? And that everything is there for it, right? Mom's there because I need, because she's part of me. My favorite about that is if you see a baby, this will happen almost for every baby, is that they're so flexible, of course, and their proportions are such that they're laying on their back and they're learning to roll and control themselves, and here comes their foot kind of comes up, right? It's right in their face, and sometimes they'll bite on it a little bit and suck on it, the toe or something. And okay, here's the thing that psychologists tell us: the baby does not know that foot is part of its own body. The baby doesn't know what the boundaries of its body are. It has no idea. Doesn't even know what the concept of a body is. So here's this thing that's cool to play with. Comes around a lot. I don't know why. But it's so much fun to play with this, right? And then eventually, one of the first cognitive structures that develops for the baby is when he's sucking on it and it feels the sensation, whoa, right? That belongs to me. That's part of me. Okay? That's cool, right? So that's the way you can explain that one. All right. Okay, order one. These are orders of consciousness. Orders of consciousness. Object independence, like I'm different than other things in the environment, right? I'm struggling to perceive the world realistically and differentiate themselves, not for others, but from others. From others. Okay? Now, so what's this mean? I'm trying to figure out what's real in the world and what's not real in the world, right? My wife is a pediatric nurse practitioner. She says you have to be so careful. This is the reason you have to be so careful with third grader, 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds and stuff. When we play with one another, we talk about the boogeyman and we talk about, you got to be careful with a 3 or 4-year-old. Why? Because they, and what they watch on television, because they don't know the difference. They literally do not know the difference between reality and imagination. Okay? So when they tell you that there's a monster in the closet or under the bed, there really is. That's real to them. Right? I was able to win over my granddaughter when she was about 4 years old. In her bedroom, there was, Mom and Dad were gone, and Bappa was taking both kids, an infant and this 4-year-old, for the first and only time that ever happened. Usually Linda's with me, my grandma's with me, right? So I told her what had worked with our 3-year-old in another family. I said, look, all you have to do, she said, she was worried there's a shadow here, there could be a monster, I'm not quite sure, and I'm working with the other baby. So I came back, and so I said, look, all you have to do is say, abracadabra, go away. And it has to go. It doesn't have any choices. It's just gone. It can't be there anymore. She looked at me a little puzzled. I said, just try it. And I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to put Beckett down and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I do that. I come back. She said, I don't want to go to sleep anyway. I want to wait up for Mom and Dad. I said, that's fine, but you just have to stay in the middle of the bed. Of course, she was going to be gone in 10 minutes. And I'll leave her, going to be asleep in 10 minutes. So she said, and besides, that didn't work. And I said, really? It didn't work? She said, no. I said, really? Show me where the monsters are. She started looking around. Maybe it did work. All right, why? Because if she doesn't see the monsters, then what? Then the magic word could have worked. And if Bappa says it works, then okay, it works. Right? And so, then they really don't know the difference between reality and... All right, so these things are describing things that really happen. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to get to. All right. The instrumental mind, the order 2 is instrumental mind. Competition and compromise, challenge is consideration for others. It's challenging for me to consider other people, right? Right now I'm in order 2, I'm in a place where I do things that work for me. Do things that work for me, and other people, if they happen to benefit, okay, but that's not my point, right? So what I now want to do is, maybe I'll do something just for you, okay? Again, this is a child basically growing up, although some people get stuck in these orders. That's what Keegan is suggesting, all right? Now, do you see that this is a hierarchical thing? It's going from a simpler to more complex, right? It's going from an external to an internal, all right? So order 3, the socialized mind. Others' perceptions are crucial. Same thing as we had earlier, the good boy, good girl, right? The challenge is resisting codependence, right? So I don't want to get into a situation where I depend on my parents for approbation, right? And in return, they give me money, right? Something like that. So the codependent kind of relationship, all right? Order 4 is self-authoring mind, responsibility and ownership of internal authority. I'm much more my own person now. I know I'm in charge. And order 5 is a self-transforming mind. You don't get there before 40. Sorry, most of you in the room. And not everybody even gets there. Okay? So, there's a recognition of commonalities and interdependence with others. Interdependence with others. I should have said something earlier about